kind of want to set the scene. So you've been telling yourself for months that you'll start applying soon. You've watched 50 hours of YouTube tutorials, which a lot of people do, by the way. And maybe you've got some Udemy courses that you've started but you didn't finish. And you've nearly bought a bootcamp twice. And the job ads on LinkedIn, they just keep getting more specific in a way that makes you feel further behind every week. And I'm describing what happens to a lot of people. Quietly, in the back of your head, this voice has started going, everyone else has clearly figured out something that I haven't, and I don't know what that is. I'm telling you right now, the thing you haven't figured out isn't a skill, it's the actual path. It honestly doesn't matter where you're coming from, whether you've been stuck in IT support for 2 or 3 years, working in the NHS even, on shift in retail or hospitality, you're sat at home post bootcamp wondering where that 8 grand that you spent actually went. Or you're probably just finishing a degree, but you're not getting any callbacks. You've applied to roles, but you're not actually getting any responses. The pattern is always the same, the frustration is always the same, and the reason it isn't working is also the same, believe it or not. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 things every career switcher I've watched land a real engineering job has done in the same order, and then 4 traps that stop almost everyone else. So here's the part nobody trying to sell you a bootcamp wants to actually say out loud. You don't have a learning problem, you have a path problem. And let me explain what that actually means. Almost everyone watching this thinks the issue is that they don't know enough. So they reach for more tutorials, the next course, they buy another course on Udemy, and the further down that road they go, the more behind they actually feel. And the cycle just runs for 18 months until they either give up and they finally clock that the path itself was the problem the whole time. I'm going to try explain it in a way that actually makes sense to a lot of you, right? The reason the path is broken is the same reason the diet industry needs you to regain weight every year. It's the same reason printer companies make their printers cheap and their ink expensive. There's a name for this in business. It's called planned obsolescence. The product is built so you keep needing the next thing, and the bootcamp economy works the exact same way. Because the moment you realize the skills you already have are 60% of the foundation you actually need, the 8 grand course or bootcamp that you're about to spend stops making sense. The people selling these courses, they know this, which is exactly why they'll never be the ones to tell you. They've built a whole business on the back of this, so why would they tell you, right? And by the way, I'm not anti-course on principle, right? If you're coming in with absolutely zero technical background, you've never touched Linux, you don't know what a terminal is, then a structured curriculum to teach you the fundamentals is genuinely useful and it makes sense. And there are bootcamps and courses out there that do that part well. So go and use one if that's where you are. But that's not most of you watching this. Most of you have already done the fundamentals. What you don't have is the path that converts those fundamentals into an offer. Listen, I'm going to say a crazy statement that a lot of people are not going to agree with. You don't need a computer science degree, you don't need a bootcamp, and you don't need to start from zero. What you need is to know what hiring managers actually filter for and to do those specific things in the right order. That's it. So here's what the rest of the video is about. There are 5 things every career switcher I've watched land a real engineering job in the last 12 months has done in the same order. And there are 4 traps that stop almost everyone else from getting there. And I'll walk you through both in detail with examples so that by the end you walk away with exactly where you are on the path and what to actually do next. By the end of the video, I want you to drop a comment with which of the 4 traps you're stuck in right now. I'm going to read every single comment, and the patterns I see in these comments shape which video I'm going to do next. The first thing is the skill stack itself, and this is where most people go wrong before they've even started. Now, some of you might be thinking, but the job specs literally list 20 tools. I have to know all of them or the recruiter bins me. And look, I get why you think that. The job spec does list 20 tools. The recruiter does scan for them, but the job spec isn't the test, and what gets you binned isn't missing tool number 18 on that list of 20. The internet will tell you to learn 50 tools: AWS, Azure, GCP, Kubernetes, Docker, Terraform, Ansible, Jenkins, GitHub Actions, Argo CD, Prometheus, Grafana, Helm. See where this is going. So you spend 3 months bouncing between all of them and you don't go deep into any one of them. And the moment a hiring manager asks you to walk through how you'd actually use one of them in a real scenario, you can't, because surface knowledge across 20 tools doesn't add up to depth in any of them. Now here's what actually gets people hired. You'd be surprised what I'm about to say next. The thing that actually gets people hired isn't knowing all these tools or learning all these tools. It's a tight stack, not a long one. And this might look like having Linux underneath, one cloud platform deep enough. For most of you that will be AWS, because it's the biggest in the market, Docker for containerization, one CI/CD tool you can demonstrate end-to-end, and Terraform. 5 things, you learn it properly in that order. The hiring panel will pick the engineer who can walk through Terraform deeply over the one who can name 20 tools they've never used. And this happens every single time. And I want you to remember this. Depth gets paid for, breadth without depth stays unemployed. Remember that. Keep that in your head. Now, the second thing is a portfolio. And this is where most people either make their case or lose it. Most portfolios I see looks like a list. For example, built a Kubernetes cluster, configured Helm charts, set up monitoring, used Prometheus. Those 4 bullets, you've listed 4 features, but 0 context. To a recruiter and hiring manager, that means absolutely nothing. The recruiter looks at that for about 10 seconds and they see a list. They don't see a person that can do the job. A list reads like a job description, which is exactly what they've been. And this is similar to the way newspaper headlines usually work. A newspaper doesn't put the contents of the article on the front page. It puts the consequence, the result that makes you actually want to read further. Book covers do the same thing. Film posters do the same thing. And this is actually one of the techniques copywriters use when they write emails. They want every sentence you read to lead to the next one. The first impression isn't a description. It's a promise of why you should care. Your portfolio works the exact same way. And the project section is your front page, is your headline. So instead of those 4 bullets, I would write something like this. Built a Kubernetes monitoring stack using Prometheus and Grafana to solve our team's blind spots on pod failures, cutting incident response times by 70% in 2 weeks. You see, that's the exact same project that I've done, except I'm giving a completely different signal. There's a problem now, a solution, a measurable outcome, and the recruiter is reading a story instead of a list. And some hiring managers, because they work with these tools, they can actually picture what this actually looks like. So you're painting a picture for them. And that's the principle I want you to take away from point 2. One project, fully built, fully deployed, with a proper readme and a story you can talk through end to end, especially in interviews. That will move you further than 5 mediocre projects ever will. And by the way, this is the bit where most career switchers get lazy, because writing the story takes longer than writing the bullet. So most won't do it. The ones who do are the ones that get the call back. Third thing, and this might be a little bit controversial, is the narrative around your previous job. And honestly, this is the part nobody coaches you on and everyone gatekeeps. But I'm going to share it with you. Most career switchers walk into interviews half apologizing for what they used to do. They say things like, I'm just an IT support analyst, or I was just working in retail, or I'm just trying to break into tech. And the second you frame your past that way, the hiring manager hears it. You've lost the room before you've even shown them what you can actually do. And I see this every single week with members joining our community. Someone walks into our first school, they have a brilliant background, real production experience. And the way they describe their last role, they sound like a person who's never built anything in their life. They've been trained by years of being told their job didn't matter to keep telling themselves it didn't matter. But here's the truth a lot of people won't tell you. The skills you've already built are 60% of the foundation of cloud engineering. You don't realize it because nobody's ever framed it that way to you. If you've worked in IT support, you understand ticketing, you've handled incidents under pressure, you know what production reliability means, and you've worked with networking and identity systems every single day. If you've worked in healthcare, finance or retail, you've handled stakeholder management with people outside your domain. You've shipped to deadline under audit pressure, and you've handled real world consequences when something goes wrong. Every single one of those things is what hiring managers actually filter for in a senior engineer, and you've already been doing them, just outside the context of tech. The way you talk about your previous role decides whether the hiring manager sees you as a beginner with no relevant experience or as an engineer with the right foundation already in place. Your job is to make sure they see the second one. Now, the fourth thing is what you actually do inside the interview. And this is the single biggest reason career switchers lose offers they should have won. You have done the prep, you'll know the answer when the panel asks you to debug something live. But the moment they put a screen share in front of you and ask you to walk through it, you'll go silent. You'll sit there typing nothing for what feels like an eternity. They'll thank you politely at the end of the call, and you'll already know that you've lost the offer before the meeting's even ended. Now, here's what nobody tells you about technical interviews. Hiring panels aren't grading your final answer. They're listening to how you think, what logs you check first, what you'd rule out, why one layer is more likely than another, because that's the only way they can evaluate whether you'd actually be useful on a real team. There's a version of this that pilots have in cockpits. There's a name for it in aviation. It's called crew resource management. The pilot narrates every decision out loud, partly so the co-pilot knows what's happening, but mostly because saying it out loud forces clearer thinking. It catches errors faster than silent reasoning ever does. A technical interview is the exact same principle. The candidate who narrates their thinking and gets the answer half wrong still beats the candidate who silently arrives at the perfect solution. The panel can't read minds. The silent one tells them absolutely nothing. And sometimes they even associate that with culture. Because 50% of the reason they might hire you is because they like you. So what you actually say in that moment would be something like this. My first instinct is to check the build logs, because 9 times out of 10, this is a permissions or syntax issue. And I'd compare against the last screen build before I touch anything else. And you see what I did there? That sentence is what I'm talking about. Said out loud, even when you're not entirely sure you're right. Clear thinking with the wrong answer beats silent perfection every single time. Remember this. Now, the fifth thing is which roles you'd actually apply for. And this is where most career switchers waste 6 months of their lives without realizing it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Abs, the guys all say start at the bottom, build experience, work my way up. That's the path, right? And here's the thing, that advice was correct in 2018. It's not correct in 2026. The junior queue isn't what it used to be. A typical junior DevOps role in the UK gets between 800 and 1,000 applicants. Most of them are CS graduates with internships, bootcamp graduates, overseas applicants flooding the exact same listing. The filters are tuned for CS degree credentials, and you're competing against people whose entire CV was built for that exact filter. Mid-level roles, on the other hand, get 60 to 80 applicants on average. The job descriptions almost always include the phrase or equivalent experience. That clause is for you. Think about it the same way as booking a flight. Everyone wants to leave from Heathrow at 10 AM on a weekday because it's the obvious choice, right? So the prices are doubled and the seats fill up months in advance. The same destination leaving from Stansted at 6 in the morning or coming back through Manchester suddenly costs half the price and has empty rows of seats. Junior DevOps is the Heathrow 10 AM route that everyone floods to. Mid-level is a Stansted 6 AM. Same destination, a fraction of the competition, far better odds for someone who actually qualifies. So those are the 5 things: skills, portfolio, narrative, interview behavior, and application strategy. Now I want to walk you through the 4 traps that stop almost everyone else from getting there. These are the ones I want you to comment on at the end. Stay with me because this part matters more than the 5. The first trap is tutorial hole. You've probably heard this so many times, and almost every career switcher I've met has been stuck in this at some point. Look, I'm not above it either. Years ago, I spent the better part of 6 months convinced I was making progress because I was watching something every day. I wasn't. I was stalling. Here's the pattern. You watch tutorials, you take the courses, you feel like you're learning. 6 months in, you feel less ready than when you started, and you don't understand why. The reason is simple. Watching tutorials doesn't make you a developer the same way watching cooking shows doesn't make you a chef. There's actually a name for this in business literature. It's called the knowing doing gap. It's the single biggest reason people stay stuck for years even after they've consumed enough material to qualify for a degree. The fix is simple and uncomfortable. Pick one project, build it end to end, ship it publicly with a proper readme. I've already mentioned it in this video, I'm mentioning it again just to show you the importance. One project properly done is better than 500 tutorials on YouTube. The second trap is cert obsession, and this is slowly being talked about, but not enough. The AWS Solutions Architect Associate, for example, every guide tells you to get that one, and almost all of them are wrong by the order. The cert proves one thing: you can pass a multiple choice test under time conditions. It doesn't prove you can build anything. It doesn't prove you can debug a broken pipeline. It doesn't prove you can think on your feet when a hiring panel asks you to architect something live in front of them. It's the same model as the UK driving theory test. Passing the exam proves you can answer multiple choice questions about hazard perception. It says almost nothing about whether you can drive on a roundabout in heavy rain. Now, to be fair, the cert isn't worthless. Once you've already got the portfolio and the experience and a CV that lands the interview, the cert can be the tiebreaker between you and the other final candidate. So I'm not saying don't get it. Eventually it's fine, you can get it, but not first. The portfolio is what gets you the interview in the first place. The third trap is a junior trap. I kind of already covered this in the application strategy section, but I'm flagging it again because it's the trap most of you are sitting in right now without realizing it. If you're applying for junior DevOps roles and getting ghosted, the fix isn't to apply harder. It's to skip the junior queue entirely and aim for mid-level roles where the filters actually favor your background. The fourth trap is going silent in interviews. The same fix as the interview behavior section, but I want to give you the one specific behavior change that handles it. When the panel asks you to debug something live and you don't immediately know the answer, do not go silent. I want you to narrate. The first sentence out of your mouth should be about where you look first, not about what the answer is. My first instinct is to check X. The reason is Y, and if that's not it, then I'd rule out Z next. That's all you need. You need to narrate. The panel will follow you through the reasoning. They'll often nudge you in the right direction, and you walk out with the offer even if you didn't perfectly solve the original problem. So I'm going to give you some action points. Right? It's simpler than every guide on the internet has been telling you for years. This week, I want you to do 3 things. 1, audit your CV. Take every project on it and rewrite it using the formula I gave you. Built project using stack to solve problem, reducing metric by number in time frame. Every project you have in your CV rewritten in that format. Number 2, pick one project to build over the next 8 weeks. Make it very specific. A containerized application deployed to AWS ECS with a CI/CD pipeline fully documented on GitHub. That is a strong default, and I want you to build that specific project. You can use any application you want as long as this is the architecture that you follow. If you finish that, you've got a portfolio that 80% of career switchers don't have. Number 3, open LinkedIn. Search DevOps engineer or cloud engineer, filter on mid or associate, and save 5 postings that include the phrase or equivalent experience. You're not applying just yet. You're seeing what the destination looks like, and you're starting to frame your previous job against that exact requirement. 3 things, that's it. That's the system. I know most of you watching this aren't going to do any of them. The ones who will are the ones in tech jobs by this time next year. The reason I know this works is because I've watched it work over 100 times in the last 12 months alone. Eid in our community had been stuck in an IT service desk role for over 2 years after graduating. He felt lost like a lot of you watching this right now. He joined us in May. He went through this exact path, and by the end of the year, he had 2 offers in his hand: an infrastructure role and a systems engineer role at AWS. The AWS interview itself was a 5-stage loop. The thing he said about it after that stuck with me was that the actual interviews felt easier than the mock interviews that we'd given him. He didn't go back to university, he didn't pay another 8 grand for a bootcamp. He followed the path and he got the offer. If you want the structured version of all of this, the exact roadmap, the project specs, the CV template, and the live workshop every week where we walk through the whole thing together, I'll put a link in the description to our free community that you can join right now. And before you leave this video, drop a comment on which of the 4 traps you're sitting in right now: tutorial hell, setup session, the junior trap, or going silent. That's how I know what to make next. The path's real and it works. Thank you for watching. I've been Abs. I'll see you in the next one.